Welcome back, everyone, to The List, a special list this week. It's not a list that we've put together. It's a list put together by Echelon Insights. And I find this to be fascinating because we're gonna be seeing a lot of polls coming out over the next few months as we eagerly await whether Joe Biden is gonna be running for president again, these sort of like Democratic primary polls. But I find the ones that they put together now to be so interesting because we get to evaluate who they include, who they don't, who merits inclusion in these things. And then based on how they put it together, who actually does well and who doesn't. So we've got this poll, Francesca, that we're gonna jump into. I wanna start off with though, acknowledging how I found this, because I found it thanks to Marianne Williamson, who tweeted this out. Notably, Marianne Williamson is not included in this poll. And double notably, she's the only person, including everyone on this poll, who is running for president.
Interesting.
So isn't it super weird that she doesn't get to be on it, despite being a declared candidate, but all these other people who have not declared are included, whether they're
She's running though on like a spiritual plane, like a different plane. So like the world of polling is like here, that's sort of terrestrial and like, and she's more in the stars.
Yeah, I knew we were gonna get there. So we're gonna start at the top, I guess. Number one, in this poll at least, which again, doesn't include Marianne Williamson, also doesn't include Bernie Sanders, which seems like, if this is a speculative thing, what a weird name to leave off. But it has Kamala Harris.
Wait. There's no Sanders in there? I don't want to be this is trash. I
know it is trash.
Bye.
But if it's just, a couple of the good progressives in Congress and then the more establishmenty ones, you've got Harris at 27%, almost doubling number two, which is Pete Buttigieg at 14%. I am so worried about the future. What do you think?
I mean, this is what we've set ourselves up for, right? Like this is what Obama hath wrought with the call that he made that everyone fold and support Joe Biden. It was, we're going for the center. And the next best thing, then the center, then Biden. I mean, these were the next two most centrist candidates, right? It was Harris and Buttigieg. I mean, Harris obviously being his running mate, and then Buttigieg being just like punching left the whole time that he was running. Even though Warren tried a little bit to get in on the Bernie bashing there at the end, but like it is really concerning, John, because we've talked about how Buttigieg has been behaving in the wake of this railway disaster and the fact that he's had this opportunity to step up and show some leadership. And I'm gonna be honest, I felt like strong words, good sort of press showing he had when he went to East Palestine, but what's behind them? What is the action? What can he actually run on and say that he did that's going to galvanize and capture people? Not a lot, right? And then you have obviously Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, who truly nothing, truly absolutely, you cannot point to anything other than, in my mind, her word salad when she speaks on a global scale, specifically around climate change. Yeah. And then telling Latin Americans and Central Americans, do not come. Like those are the two most sort of
misstep after misstep.
Misstep after misstep, and also the leash is so short on them, John. Like that, even if they wanted to show leadership, they're apparently clearly not allowed to sort of step out and kind of like, Kamala Harris spins herself. You just see herself running in circles, like again on her leash, being like, I cannot say anything. Well, so anyway,
so also, I think it's weird because right now they are leading. They didn't do well last time around. Like Buttigieg did okay in New Hampshire, I think. Like one super white state, he did okay there. That was it. Harris didn't do well at all, and I don't just mean in terms of the polling, which they didn't do well, but they were dog food on the debate stage. Like they're not good campaigners. So I feel like Harris and Buttigieg are just the two names that, if it's not Biden, I guess I've heard of them, especially lately. I guess I've heard of them. So we'll see. I mean, maybe Harris is able to mop people up, but I kind of doubt it. Coming at number 3 and 4, I think we have the two biggest progressive names on the list, with Elizabeth Warren at 8% and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at 6%. I think that considering AOC has never talked about this, she's not, like in terms of her position in government on a national level or whatever. I think that that's not bad for her to be at 6% right now. Like she's matching Gavin Newsom, who has been running for president for at least 2 years right now as governor of California.
Excuse me, no.
Specifically going up against Ron DeSantis and all that. Like, I think that seems pretty good to me, but what do you think? With Newsom at 5.
I'm not mad at it. I gotta say, like we're talking about, let's put AOC aside and maybe Warren a little bit aside. We're talking about sort of like neoliberal cringy candidates, right? And who are usually bad faith and opportunists. And I think Warren is also a little opportunist as well, but she at least I think has the backing and the history and the work to show for some of her more working class friendly stances and pro-democracy stances. Newsom for me is number 1 between Kamala and Buttigieg. And Newsom, I'm going Newsom because at least again, he doesn't seem like he's willing to pick a fight. He's willing to step out of this respectability trap that I think that Biden's ilk of Democrat sort of exudes and his leadership sort of like puts out there, and that is old and stale and not relevant for the year 2023 when we are going up against fascism. So, I mean, John, this is the question. It's like, ultimately, what are they doing, right? This is all for an eye to the general, and the general will be most likely going up against Donald Trump. So who is the best situated to go up against fascism and beat it? Maybe not have a plan to ultimately beat it, but beat it just for the next few years.
Yeah. I mean, Newsom, I think, is trying to campaign on being that aggressive. I think that's why he's doing all these stunts against Ron DeSantis. What he would actually do, how his promises on the campaign trail would translate to action as president, I think is a very open question. There's some names that have been included in here, I think, just from previous, like Klobuchar obviously had run last time around, Booker ran last time around. They both presumably could run again.
Ugh.
I don't know why we would believe they would do significantly better than they did last time, but who knows? They could run again. You do see Abrams there at 3% and Whitmer. So these are figures who, some of the stuff that they got involved in at the state level did rise to national. Stacey Abrams is a very well-known figure. I've heard some people say they think that Gretchen Whitmer will be a national figure on this level. I guess. I mean, I suppose anything's possible. Raphael Warnock there. Pritzker, I had heard similar sorts of things on some of his stances around gun control, but doesn't seem to have anything like the national following just yet. But I don't know. What do you think about some of these names down at the lower end of the polling?
I mean, Adams makes me want to hurl. I think Pritzker is actually interesting for sure. I'm not seeing Julian Castro, which is actually for me really disappointing because I liked Julian's campaign and I believe that he I actually like him way better than obviously Buttigieg or Kamala. I think he's definitely to the left of them. And also not seeing our sad boy, O'Rourke, Beto is not there.
As soon as you said our sad boy, that's who I thought you were talking about.
Like sad boy.
That's not good. That's not good.
It's not good that Beto's not there. And again, I actually really like him. I like him more than I like Buttigieg and Kamala because I think he's to the left. And I also think he understands border issues in a way that we desperately need in this country. And it's a plug for me to say that I'm plugging him, but that we have to remember that he did so exceedingly well against Abbott along the border, literally in border towns.
That's true.
That are supposedly rife with crime and everything's terrible and all the immigrants. No. He beat Abbott, disproportionately beat him in those counties.
Yeah. One other name that I noticed isn't here is Porter.
There you go.
I know she's obviously going to be running for Senate and everything, but I thought that was interesting that was excluded. So look, I wanted to get out in front of a season of these polls. I'm going to be definitely looking to see who they include and who they don't. Some of these, they're going to put Harrison Buttigieg. That makes sense. Why isn't Sanders there? That just seems so weird. Almost like that this was a tactic.
It is, that for sure. But I want to know what you think about AOC at 6%.
I I prefer to see her at 60%. But she's only like, when people have asked her, she's always super hesitant to say that she has any political aspirations above the House. Like, she's occasionally talked about not necessarily seeing herself as being a lifelong politician. So
that's right.
I mean, I know she, like, the right loves to attack her. That's not necessarily any reason for the Democrats to not choose her in a primary, but Democrats do spend like 80% of every waking minute being terrified of what the right is going to say. So maybe that would lead them to not want to support a candidate who's going to be, attacked by the right. I don't know. I would love if it was like Harris 27, Ocasio-Cortez 24. That would be fascinating. So I'm gonna be watching the next one. So what do you think?
I just think it's amazing though, because I do think that AOC, she checks boxes that for many different reasons, being a woman of color is one of them. But then also being just an incredibly magnanimous and charismatic person. Yeah. She checks boxes, I think, for mainstream media and for mainstream Democratic machinery that, I don't know, man. I think it's hard to beat. Like, I think it's like even the most centrist bureaucrat, she's a socialist person, is like, she knows that AOC is undeniable, that the brand is undeniable. So if we knew it was good for us, if the party knew it was good for it, they would be trying to support her and the squad. But of course, again, only until recently it was Nancy Pelosi, and now we've got Hakeem Jeffries, who's basically called AOC an influencer, and it's just so it's again the shade is endless.
100%. I'm gonna be watching it very carefully.
Yeah.
I'm really curious. 10 takes us to Warnock, by the way. So Warnock at the lower threshold, but I think that if Bernie and Porter were on there, I think that those would knock Whitmer and Warnock out. But
maybe they took Bernie out because the curve, it was messing up the curve. You know what I'm saying? Like,
maybe.
Because seriously, how can we look at this honestly without seeing him on there?
Yeah, and without Williamson, who is actually running.
He'd be the same age as what, a year older than Biden, please.
Mm-hmm. Well, with that said, thank you for joining us for this. A little bit different. We'll be back to our regular format next time. I just wanted to touch base with this and have a little bit more space. It's tough to do this sort of thing live on the show sometimes. But Francesca, as always, thank you for being here. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you. See y'all soon.